Hello and welcome to i-nastava. You're watching today's video lesson for English class, the third year, and today's topic is the triathlon. My name is Stephanie Kate Lukač and I'm your teacher for today. You're going to observe different aspects of the triathlon, what it's made of, the actual race, and personality traits, what you need to do this. You're also going to report what was said in a video about a father-son triathlon. You'll need for today's lesson a notebook, a pen or a pencil, and a device with internet connection. So, I thought I'd start with letting you know about what a triathlon actually is. You've all heard of it, but maybe some of you don't know the actual parts of it. So it starts off with swimming. The second leg consists of cycling, and the third leg consists of running. So all three are called disciplines, and then you have also in between kind of like mini disciplines because they're also timing you in between. So some of you might be off your chairs right about now when you see these distances, which is why I put the oh my God face up on the top. If you look, the Olympic legs are the shortest, as you can see. So you've got 1.5 swimming, cycling with 40, and around 6 with the racing, the bike racing. The Ironman, on the other hand, is huge, swimming almost 4 kilometers, 180 of cycling, and running a little over 42 kilometers. This is all at once, mind you. So all in one day or however long it takes them. I think it's somewhere around 15, 16 hours. It's just mind-blowing. So yeah, if you're a true sportsman, a true athlete, then you go for this kind of stuff. You cannot talk about those absolutely amazing distances in the triathlon and not talk about what kind of person you need to be to do this. This sport is not for everybody. So I've prepared a small article on the left, True Triathlete link, where I'd like you to click on there and read through. After which, the link on the right, Vocab Triathlon, there's a small quiz with vocabulary from the text where you need to match the words with the definitions. Right now would be a good time to pause the video and then you can keep going a little bit later when you're finished. Here you can take a look to see how you've done in your vocabulary check. We've got perseverance, which I would just say, be careful with the spelling because sometimes even I put an R before the V kind of by accident. It said perseverance, but you don't need the R there. Goal getter, sometimes here in writing as well, you have a dash in between. It's just the difference between British and American English. Courageous, endurance, self-discipline, healthy, motivation, strength, and competitive. Take a look at the quotes from real triathletes throughout America. You can see that there are various reasons for getting involved in this sport. Jamie, for example, does triathlons to spend more time with her husband. Mary Louise and Mike are trying to stay healthy, but also show that you don't have to be young to finish a triathlon. I think we could all look up to these two. We're always looking for excuses not to take up any sports. No time, nobody to train with, laziness, etc., etc. Ron is also a role model in a sense because he took up this sport to lose weight and be fit. I don't think that's extremely hard with the triathlon's length and tempo. On the other hand, Michelle took her fear of water and turned her life around, not just learning how to swim, but also to live a healthier lifestyle. So the next time you try to come up with excuses why not to take up any sport, think of these people for a bit. I have to admit that I saw this story, which you're about to watch, a few years ago, and it still stuck with me. In my opinion, it's such an inspirational and emotional video that I have to share it with you. I'm not going to let any spoilers out because I really think we can all learn something from this amazing story. Relax for a little bit while you're watching and concentrate. Concentrate on the message of the story, of the people in the story, and when you're finished, I'd like you to make a short recording that you can make on vocaroo.com or your cell phone. Answer the main question, what do you think of this video? You're going to talk about your overall impressions, what you thought of the story, what inspiration you might be feeling or after watching it. The sky's the limit. Send your recording of about 1 to 2 minutes to your teacher. Now would be a good time to pause the video and open up the link to watch. I hope you enjoyed watching that video as much as I did in the past and that you successfully recorded your small speech and sent it to your teacher. I also hope you found some inspiration just as much as I did. For this next part, I'd like you to take a look at the comic where it goes through some of the parts of direct indirect speech. Direct speech is something that is directly said, hence the name, whereas indirect speech or reported speech, it's also called, where you're talking about what was said later on. So take a quick look and then we'll go through some of the parts just to refresh your memory. You've already been through direct and indirect speech in the previous grades. It's just you went over most likely the more basic grammar tenses. So here there are a few more, as you can see in the chart. So a little bit later, you can pause the video to copy the chart into your notebooks. So the first thing I should say, is you're changing the tense. The main thing is kind of present to past. You're always going backwards when it comes to reported speech. The two new tenses that you can see here are past continuous and present perfect continuous. You're changing both of these into the past perfect continuous, or the had been and ending ing. The second thing to watch out for is changing the pronouns if it's necessary, and also changing the time expressions. Now would be a good time to pause the video and then you can copy the chart into your notebooks so you have some help a little bit later on. A lot of students have some problems with changing the question forms into reported speech. All you need to do is follow my 1, 2, 3, and you'll be acing these in no time. So it's the same as sentences when it comes to changing the tenses, but when you get to so-and-so asked, you start off with number 1. So if the question is a yes-no question, what I mean by this is if the answer to the question is yes or no, you need to start off with if. If it's not a yes-no question, then you copy the question word, what, which, who, and so on. Right after you've written that in number 1, you go on to number 2. Here you need to write down the personal pronoun or the subject of the question. Again, you have to be careful if you have to change it. And then the third thing, after your subject, you need to change the grammar tense back, as I told you in the previous slide. So you can pause the video here in order to copy these 3 steps into your notebook so you won't forget about this at a later time. I think the biggest problem is because the question forms, you have the word inversion, then the students get a little bit confused, like why do I have they don't change it back, because when you're talking about reported speech with the questions, you're not saying it in a question anymore, you're saying it in the statement form. That's why this is usually kind of confusing for the students. So just remember the 1, 2, 3, and you're good to go. Here I've prepared some examples for you just to kind of give you an idea of what I was talking about or if you had any problems. So in the first one, you have Maya said, I don't know what you're talking about. I underlined the verbs so they kind of stand out so you see how I changed them back. Maya said that she didn't know what I was talking about. I put the that in brackets, by the way, because you're okay if you put it. Maya said that. And you're okay if you don't put it. Maya said she. So whichever one is easier for you to remember, you can use whichever. They're both correct. So don't know, we put back into didn't know, are talking back into was talking. So you can see if you have an auxiliary verb and a main verb, you never touch the main verb. You leave it. So ing is ing. No is no. Also note the I we changed into she because my is a girl. And you was changed into I. With your second example, Joe said, my friends were playing football yesterday. This is one of the new tenses, past continuous, where we changed back into had been playing. Again, note my friends was changed into his friends. So any possessive pronouns that you have, you also need to change as well. We've also got yesterday, the time expression, back into the day before. Now we've got the questions, so you can take a look at the 1, 2, 3 I told you about a little bit earlier. For example, Carla asked John, can you lend me 100 kunas? So this is the yes-no question, because she's asking, can you lend me? It's yes or no. So we start off with if. Carla asked John if he could lend her 100 kunas. So you see my 1, 2, 3. Number 1, if. Number 2, the pronoun he. And then number 3, the grammar could lend. We put it back from can to could. Then the teacher asked the class, what are you doing? Now this is not a yes-no question anymore. So this is why I started off directly with what was in the quotations. The teacher asked the class what they were doing. So you got what number 1, they number 2, were doing number 3. So keep the 1, 2, 3 in your head when you're changing questions and you'll do fine. Here's a list of various sentences and questions from the video you watched. Please copy the sentences into your notebooks, then change them into the indirect speech or the reported speech. Please pause the video so you can take some time to do them, and then we'll check over to see how you've done. In order for you to check your answers, pause the video and take a look. If you're unclear with some of the answers, feel free to ask your teacher for some extra help, although I'm sure you all did a great job. If you, by the way, had some difficulties, the main thing is to ask for help and keep practicing. We always say practice makes perfect in sports, right? So why would it be any different in English? You're going to hear an interview with Lily Messer, a woman triathlete. There are also questions I'd like you to answer in regard to what you've heard. So please pause the video and open the link so you can listen while you read. You can return back to the beginning of the recording in order to listen to it twice. Once you've entered the questions, please take a picture of or screenshot your score to your teacher. Good luck!
Hello, and welcome to our radio show, Acquainted with Athletes. Today we are talking to one of the most famous female triathletes, Lily Messer. Lily, thank you so much for coming.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I always look forward to talking about my favorite hobby, the triathlon.
Well, to start with, tell us a little about how you came up with the idea of becoming a triathlete. I believe I read once, a while back, that you said the idea had just kind of hit you one day while reading a newspaper article about the Ironman competition. Is that true?
Yes and no. I mean, I did come across an article about the Ironman, but the idea of actually doing a triathlon was in the back of my mind for quite a while. The biggest problem was my self-esteem. I wasn't sure if I had the necessary stamina or endurance to go through with one. I know I have the stubbornness or perseverance. My husband knows that best. And I do have strength and motivation on my side. I've always been the athletic type ever since I was a child, but the triathlon certainly frightened me at the beginning. After having lengthy discussions with my family, especially my husband, I finally decided to at least give it a go. I also wanted to show my children that if you have the courage and determination, you can do whatever you want in life.
I agree with you on that one. So, besides bravery, perseverance, and endurance, what would you say makes a great triathlete?
Other than what I've already mentioned, I would have to say mental strength and self discipline as well. Oh, and having a competitive nature sure doesn't hurt.
Interesting. Can you tell us why?
Well, doing a triathlon can psychologically drain you. It's definitely physically demanding, but when you're training or are in the middle of the race, the mental aspect can get to you more than the physical one. If you allow yourself to give up because things get hard, then this sport isn't for you. You're doing 3 disciplines all at once, with almost 50 kilometers of swimming, cycling, and running. Of course, it's going to get difficult. And that's only for the Olympics distance. I'm not even going to mention how long the Ironman is. But when you're mentally prepared for it and you've trained yourself to push through it no matter what, it makes it easier. This ties in with self discipline, obviously. Training your mind and training your body are similar in some ways. You must discipline yourself mentally and physically, otherwise, you break down. When I'm preparing for a race, my family and I know the regimen, the schedule, no lack of sleep or going to bed late, no cheat days in my diet. I must follow proper nutrition at the exact amounts recommended. Not too little, not too much, which is why I also have my sister, who is a nutritionist, help me with that. She once told me a friend of hers wasn't feeling well because she wasn't taking in enough calories. Not enough food intake can be just as dangerous as too much. In addition to sleep and food, training and exercise are, of course, extremely important. I have to go through different types of training like strength and endurance.
Right. What does your typical training look like now that you mention it?
That's what I love about the triathlon. It's diverse. No two trainings are alike. I like to mix things up, especially when I'm getting ready to compete. The 3 disciplines of swimming, cycling, and running are not a huge problem for me. I go swimming in my pool and cycling or running in and around my city every day. However, just doing that isn't enough to prepare. I also go to the gym to do some resistance training to build up all the muscles in my body. My best friend comes with me and we motivate each other to bring out the best results.
Wow. With your job, you must be on the go all the time. Do you take any breaks from training?
Of course, nobody can keep up with that kind of regime. Sunday is always my day off, time I spend with my friends and family. I believe every successful athlete needs to take one day off a week to relax and rejuvenate, recharge your batteries.
How do you organize your time, balancing between work, family life, and training?
I have to admit it is strenuous at times, not only on me, but on my family as well. Luckily, my husband is supportive of my decision to compete in triathlons. He also knows my schedule, knows when I need to be left alone and when I need him to be there for me. He's such a tremendous help around the house and with the kids, so it makes a huge difference when it comes to organizing my time. My children love to watch their mom cross the finish line, and I also love seeing their faces light up and run out to give me a hug when I'm done. That's what gets me through the pain and exhaustion during the race. I'm also lucky enough to have a job I love and a manager who understands and respects me, not to mention the time he gives me off so I can travel to a race destination. Not everyone has such a great support system, so I am truly blessed.
Well, unfortunately, our time is almost up. For the end, what advice would you give other young women who are contemplating the triathlon as a sport for them?
The number one piece of advice I would give is never doubt yourself and never give up. I think we as women tend to second guess ourselves, our abilities, and talents. Believe in yourself. Know that if you put your mind to something, you can and you will finish it as long as you've got the strength and determination to see it through. Even when things get hard, keep going. You're going to fall down many times along the way. Getting back up and pushing forward is what matters.
I agree. That's all about the time we have left for today's talk. Lily, thank you once again for being a guest on our show today. I know you've been an inspiration to many young women out there. Good luck on your next race. I'm sure you'll finish at the top.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I hope that wasn't too hard for you. And now we've come to the end of your triathlon. Please take a few minutes to fill in the chart. As in the beginning of the race, you're all hyped up and ready to go. Everything is easy. So what was the most straightforward or simplest part of the lesson? With the second column, you're in the middle of the stretch and you're starting to feel the pain, the tiredness. Were there any parts that were a little more difficult that you feel you need more help with? And with the final column, you're at the end of the race, exhausted but nearing the finish line. Here you can write down what you absolutely need more help with from your teacher, so he or she can help you to get to that finish line with no trouble. I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. Take care and have a good day.